You found us through fly fishing. You'll stay for our passion and the community. Welcome to the Wet Fly Swing podcast.
Yeah, but he doesn't get it. How come fly fishermen don't get it?
You only haul with the short power snap.
Look for where people walk and the insides of bends and hunt those.
The roof flew off and the interior walls got sucked out. And the trees are just coming up. And I mean, he's clearly not going to clear the trees.
It is not a fly fishing story. It's a story about me trying to understand my brother through fly fishing.
Welcome to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show, where you discover tips, tricks, and tools from the leading names in fly fishing today.
Before we get started, quick word from our sponsor, Smitty's Fly Box, delivering monthly flies, fly materials, and accessories each month with their Smitty's subscription fly box. Smitty's has been producing high-quality flies and materials for over 30 years, so now it's time to take the guesswork out of fly time materials and patterns. You can support this podcast right now and get a great selection of flies and fly time materials right now at Smitty's Fly Box. That's Smitty's, S-M-I-T-T-Y-S, Smitty'sFlybox.com. We've been waiting for you. Follow our guests, follow us on Instagram, and share this episode and the love if you enjoy this podcast. And we are live in 3, 2, 1. How you doing, Carl?
I'm doing great. Yeah, surprised. I'm like, what am I doing here on like a fly fishing podcast? So
yeah, that's what I love. I love that. That's the answer I want because, you know, the great thing is we're more than a fly fishing podcast. I think that
sure.
I always use the quote, people have heard it a lot, but the riches are in the niches. You know, you kind of start out niche down and then you kind of expand out as you take over the world. And, you know, we have a lot of listeners that are actually, you know, into backpacking, into hunting, into all this other stuff outdoor related. So I always love to get a guest like yourself on. I mean, we actually started our podcast at similar timing, and I want to dig into, just because you've interviewed all these great guests, I want to get some insight from you so we know how to put together a better backpacking trip. That's kind of where I'm coming from. Does that sound okay for you?
That sounds great. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I like to start back on just kind of how you got into this, because I know the podcasting is a lot of work. So first, let's jump into your backpacking. What's your first, have you been doing this your whole life since you were a little kid, or how'd you get into this?
Oh, yeah. So not since I was a little kid. I didn't have my parents were not the backpackers or the outdoors people. Like, I always thought it was fun to go camping, but we didn't go camping very often. And it was really probably out of jealousy, to be honest, where I had some high school friends who always talked about going to Yosemite and these great Yosemite trips. And I wasn't invited. And so I thought, well, I want to go. And so, so I guess it was my senior year, I put together the trip and I invited a bunch of my friends and they all went. We all had a great time. And we got to this trailhead. We did this hike called Half Dome, which is pretty popular in Yosemite. And I hadn't ever done a big hike before. I was like a basketball guy. And it turned out really well. And I thought it was great. But this trailhead anyway at Happy Isles had like, you know, all these distances for these different hikes. And this is the start of the John Muir Trail. And at the very bottom was like Mount Whitney, 210 miles away.
Wow.
And I looked at my buddies. I was like, 210 miles. Who's hiking 210 miles? That's ridiculous. And so then that kind of like, you know, spurred on the process of researching and figuring out, oh, this is like actually a thing. And so I guess that's kind of my origin story there.
Wow, that's really cool. Yeah, so Yosemite has been cool because it's been coming up quite a bit. I just we had an episode on, you know, Yosemite, like some guides there, and then we also had there's a bunch of stuff with like Hetch Hetchy and some conservation. We had an episode, but I mean, essentially, that is one of the great places to mountain climb, but also hiking, right? I mean, now, are you close to that area? Where are you at now?
Yeah, so I'm in Colorado right now. I grew up Southern California area, and so and then I moved to Colorado about 17 years ago. So now I still got buddies there. So we have like our annual backpacking trip where we get together and we usually hit up Yosemite every few years and go back there. And yeah, I was actually just there, I don't know like 3-4 weeks ago. So yeah.
Nice. Right on.
Yep.
Right. Well, so the podcast, I always love to start there as well, because I know how hard it is to do a podcast, and we actually started very similar time. You're doing this weekly and you're doing a lot of content. How did this start? Tell us the start, and then how are you keeping it going here?
The origin story of the podcast. Yeah. So it's kind of funny how podcasts start. So this is like 2017, and I don't know what you were looking for in podcasts at the time, but I was looking for, I'm a podcast listener. I love podcasts. Yeah. And so when I was looking for content like backpacking related content or outdoor content, and I searched around, not only was there not very much out there at the time, but what was out there, I didn't find it very good or entertaining. And so I got a buddy who's a character, my co-host Derek, and we were in the back of our minivan, like on our way back from Glacier National Park after a backpacking trip. We started talking podcasts, and I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to start a podcast. And without hesitation, he's like, yeah, I'd do it with you. I was like, really?
Perfect.
Okay. That's a pretty big commitment.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if, I kind of had to do the research. A few months later, we got it rolling, and then we're like, okay, we just have to be better than whatever's out there. And so, and yes, that's kind of how it started. We've been going ever since. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. We've met a lot of great folks, and just the outdoor community is just filled with amazing, amazing people. And we've been blessed to continue to meet them like consistently throughout the years.
Yeah, that's it. And when you're going through your episodes, I mean, how do you do that when you're topic wise, finding guests? How do you choose what's coming up next? Are you guys scheduling things out, or how's that look?
Oh, like pull back the curtain kind of question here.
Yeah. Let's take a yeah.
Okay. So my buddy, Derek, he's so much fun. We had years of backlog podcasting to talk about, but we kind of burned through that in the first couple of years. And he has 2 special needs kids at home, so he doesn't go backpacking very often. He goes really just like once a year at most, and that's if there's no family emergencies or whatever. So in the last couple of years, I've realized, okay, we can't generate stories if he's not actually going, and so we've had to kind of switch to more of like a guest-based show. And so we're just looking for people that we find interesting and that we want to talk to, and that could be somebody, with a really big audience, hundreds of thousands of people. Like we had Brooke Whipple, Girl in the Woods, on our show. She was on the show Alone, if you're familiar with that TV show. And she was amazing. But then we've had folks on who, who just didn't go on YouTube, and they've been great too. So just whoever, we just want to have engaging conversations that entertain, and hopefully where people can kind of come away and learn something.
Nice. And overall, these episodes, I think, you're close to, are you like 350 or something like that? Where are you at now?
For our numbers, or for total episodes?
Total episodes.
No, we were talking before the show. Like we're literally like half of you.
Yeah, you're half.
I think we're approaching, because you're approaching 500, right?
Yeah, we are.
Okay, so we're around 250.
Oh, 250, yeah. So there you go. So
You've
perfect.
Doubled our production.
We've doubled, but it's not just me. It's not just me. I've got multiple people helping. If it was just me, I would be I'm sure the same place. But so out of all those episodes, I mean, I always think back, like, what's our kind of favorite, or what one stick out? Do they all blend together now, or do you still remember exactly every episode number and all that stuff?
I want to know your answer to this question, but yeah, I feel like I heard you ask that somebody else on one of your shows. They don't blend together. So they definitely stick out. And when I look at the titles, I can tell you exactly what we talked about in the episodes. That being said, we'll get folks probably like you, where they go back 2-3 years and they're like, in episode 75, when you said such and such, can you please provide the source of information that you used to support your thesis there? I'm like,
wow.
No.
Damn, yeah.
I literally got that email this week, and I was
Holy
like,
cow.
I don't remember specifically saying that, but yeah, I mean, I think generally, like that each episode is something you work hard on and you produce, and hopefully it turns out the way you want it to. And and something you can be proud of. And so, I like each and every one. And I don't know, like you got double though. Like, how are you with that? Do they blend, or do you know them all?
Yeah, they for the first like 200, that's why I kind of asked that again, because the first 200 or so, I remembered exactly. Like if anything came up, I would say, oh yeah, it was episode 189. And now after,
that's specific. Wow.
Yeah, I would remember everything for the first couple hundred, and maybe I'm getting a little older too now, but it's just now that we're at 500, it all is just, because we're doing 3 a week now too. So it's just, It's a lot.
The issue is like where I have to really be mindful is I don't want to ever duplicate a topic,
right?
Or just, you don't want to repeat or,
no,
I don't know. So that's where, and I think I made that mistake a couple times where I was like, oh, it's not the same, but it's similar enough where I should have known better anyway.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I know. And I think that's one thing I don't think I do. I do kind of know all those topics. So I kind of have that in my head.
Okay.
For the most part. And I'm not too worried about that because I know some of these topics people, forget about, and then we can expand. And I've had the same guest on multiple times. Some guests I've had on 3 times.
Oh yeah. So you got to get the good ones back on, right? Like
exactly.
That's the good stuff. So yeah. And then remember what they said the first couple times.
Today's episode is sponsored by Togens Fly Shop, who provides superior quality products at an affordable price. An amazing resource for fly tying materials, tools, and fishing accessories. Since 2005, Togens has been over-delivering on price, service, and passion, and now you can check out that Togens buzz for yourself. Right now, you can head over to wetflyswing.com/Togens to get started. That's Togens. You support this podcast by clicking through that link to Togens Online. So, well, I want to dig into a little bit. You've had a bunch of great episodes on just, a bunch on gear and kind of mistakes to avoid. I mean, a lot of people listening here, some people maybe haven't done a lot of these major backpacking trips. And I know the ultralight, since I've, was doing a lot of backpacking trips, things have gotten a lot lighter and all that. So I'd love to talk gear a little bit, but maybe do you want to start with kind of some mistakes? Maybe before we get there, talk about your backpacking. Are you somebody who's out there? How often are you doing these trips? Do you like the long, super long trips, short trips? What do you like here?
Yeah. I mean, I've got kids, so I can't do the super long trips at this point. So I'm typically out there, I would say like five trips a year, and I try to hit different areas. So typically 4 to 5 different states, and usually at least 2 of them, maybe 3 of them involve my family, whether it's like whole family with other families going, or I'm bringing my kid along on a trip or something like that. But yeah, so 4 to 5 trips, and usually one in Colorado. Let's see, we hit Wyoming. I mentioned Yosemite, California this year. We actually were up in Banff, Canada, for one of our trips. And so, yeah, we try to get a diversity of areas while still hitting like epic scenery. That's kind of our goal.
Oh, right.
So, yeah.
And you're in a pretty epic area. Where are you at in Colorado?
So I'm in a place called Castle Rock. It's like, 30 minutes south of Denver. We actually ranked in, Trail Runner Magazine as being like one of the top trail running towns in the nation. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. For those who like to hit the trail a lot, check it out.
Yeah, that's another thing. That's another one of my passions, but I haven't done much of it lately. I love trail running. I remember I was getting into it so much. I was like, all right, I did a half marathon.
Okay.
Sort of
like
thing.
On the trail?
Yeah, I did a trail. Yeah.
What was the name of the race?
It was out, this was a while ago, but it was out on kind of the coast. It was a really tiny race. I think it was called the, I want to say it was like the Alsea Trail Run or something like that, but it was just a really small kind of trail race. But
that's what I like.
Yeah, and it was really awesome. Again, same thing with like the kids and stuff. It's just to train and take, it was just tough, so I haven't done it as much. But again, these are like the things with the outdoors, all these activities. I love everything, and backpacking's another one of those things I really love. I just haven't been doing as much as I want to do. So I'm hoping that talking about it is going to get me inspired to do it more.
Get the bug for sure.
Exactly. So, but if somebody's here listening and they're thinking like, yeah, I want to get out there, I don't have much stuff. How do I do this? Let's talk about maybe your gear. Are you a super ultralight guy, or are you just kind of middle of the road? But what's your gear look like?
No, and to be honest, that's probably like a big misconception. Is that people that really know what they're doing are ultralighters. That's incorrect. So people that are really committed to going ultralight are typically going to be the people that are doing the long trails. And that's not even everybody that's doing the long trails.
Right.
So what I have found is that people that are investing a lot of money in their gear, they'll go really lightweight on the big 4 items. So, we're talking tent, we're talking sleeping bag, we're talking sleeping pad, and then the backpack itself. So they'll be, they'll spend over $1,000, maybe over $2,000 on those items, and they're ultralight. But then what they do is, because they've shaved so much weight in those 4 areas, they end up tossing all sorts of crazy things in their backpack.
Oh, really?
Like anything from, Crocs to chairs to whatever. And so their pack weight ends up being sometimes heavier than the people that aren't spending that much money. So I think going ultralight, if you're, I don't know if this is your target audience here, but if you're committed to going for some epic backcountry trip, you want to go to a remote lake, hardly anybody's back there, maybe nobody's back there, and you want to just go, you want to shave as much weight so you can get there as easily as possible, or go farther than you normally go, then that's definitely something to consider. But if that's not who you are, then I don't know if that's what you want to do.
That's great to know. Yeah, I was thinking more a little bit on the lines of, well, the more I shave, especially with the kids, if you got the kids out there hiking, how do we get them? Well, that's probably one way, right? You think of the kids because,
if you're going with your kids, you're not shaving anyway.
That's true.
You're loading up your backpack full of
I'm thinking, when do you expect these kids, to carry their own weight sort of thing? How's that look?
Yeah, I think, oh man, it just depends on the kid. Like some kids.
Yeah, how do you do it? Now, how old are your kids?
So, my kids are now 15 and 13. So now they can do that. But early on, I don't know. I've gone with, you always have like friends, and like the friends have these like they're these like super athletes, and their kids are super athletes, and so their kids are just like these skinny little people, and they just load them up with weight, and they're just flying down the trail. I'm like, those are my kids. Like,
yeah.
So it started with like, carry a school backpack. Can you carry your clothes and like a couple toys and your snacks for the day, maybe a little water bottle, and then it kind of upgrades to like a kid backpack with a sleeping bag, and then same other things, and then you kind of. I don't know. I don't know that I'm there yet with like, can you carry a piece of group gear? Like, can you carry the stove or a water filter? We're not quite there yet.
Right.
We're getting there.
That's it. Good. So you're working on it.
Yeah.
So on your gear, so you're not too worried about, as far as the gear, it's basically, obviously shave weight where you can. Mm-hmm. But what do you think are the most important things when you think of the gear? Say you obviously, I've always been on the other end where my pack's just way too heavy. I seem to bring too much stuff. But as food,
what's too heavy? Like, give me a ballpark. How heavy would your pack be?
I don't even. I've been on the extreme level. I'm not, because we throw in. The other thing with the fly fishing stuff is you might have a float tube, wading boots, fins, all this other stuff. But
that's a lot.
Yeah. So, I've had the extreme of, God, I don't even know, my last probably like 40 or 50 pound pack rolled into some place. Right.
But so I was just up in the Wind River Range in Wyoming, and we passed a ton of people that were fishing. There were a lot of lakes up there, and they're not bringing this, what you just mentioned. I would say their packs, I don't know what their weight was, but in terms of size, like they were able to pare it down to like a 65 liter pack or smaller. So I think that's, if you're looking for like a specific tip right there, I would say start with your pack size and go from there, because like naturally, if you're gonna have a bigger pack and you're done packing, you're like, well, I got space for this, I got space for that. That's what's really going to load you down, is you're bringing things you don't need. And I would say that's tip number one, 65 liters or less. When I see fishing poles, they're not usually inside the pack. They're usually attached to the side of the pack. And so that's not going to be the issue. And you should be able to, I don't know, depending upon how far you want to go with the fishing gear, like you should be able to fit everything else inside.
Yeah. Okay. So that's good. So the 65 liters, that's a good starting point. So try to stay that size or lower to keep you from getting too big. And what would be a massive, like what would be these giant, some pack? What's the biggest pack you've seen out there?
Oh, I'm sure they've got, like if you're going like hunting packs,
they've
got some pretty crazy ones. For backpacking, usually they kind of peak out at 85 liters. And that's what I was carrying on family trips. And I think it was last year that I sold it. And oh my goodness, I was so happy to sell that pack. I was like, this is a moment in my life where I don't have to carry the big pack anymore. But yeah, they're pretty massive. And on it, like another tip would be like you mentioned that you're not quite sure what your pack weight is. But it's kind of, unless you're, I don't know, for us, we're always going with a group. It's kind of fun to see. And even the kids like it, like, bring a pack scale, like one of those luggage scales. You can buy them on Amazon and just weigh the packs. Who's got the heaviest? Who's got the lightest? Is the smallest kid or is the weakest person, is the weakest link, so to speak, the person with the heaviest pack? That's not what you want.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So.
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah, this is awesome. And what do you do? You're telling me again, well, you have kids and stuff, you kind of have to have a tent, but are you like a full kind of 4-season tent, or do you do like the poles and shelter sort of thing? What's that look like?
Not the 4-season, unless we're going to be going in the 4-season. Yeah. Just like the 3-season tents. Yeah. Wait, are you more of a tarp person or bivy sack? Or what do you,
well,
okay.
I would definitely, when we just go camping out, we do a lot of boat, like river trips and stuff. So it's a little bit different. It's kind of like a mix, but right. we tend to just sleep on the tarp. We kind of like sleeping under the stars.
Yeah. Oh, if you can pull it off and if there's no bugs, then by all means. Yeah, I've definitely done that. And yeah, under the stars is amazing. Just depends upon when you go. Like, you're on earlier season. We probably could have, I don't know. We probably could have pulled that off a couple weeks ago in Wyoming, but for sure. Yeah, no, I usually, there's, I don't know, for some people, especially if you're newer to camping or backpacking, for whatever reason, that like thin nylon sheet feels safe. It's protecting you from whatever crazy sounds you're hearing outside.
Right.
And so there's just some sort of like solace in that. And so I don't know, I've always kind of stuck with that.
That's right. Yeah. And what about, we've had a number of bear chats this year. Have you had any, what's your experience with bears out there? Have you had any guests with stories or anything?
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure. 100%. I probably have a very strong opinion on bear stuff. So I could go off on bears. Okay. Oh, first of all, I'll tell you. Okay. So we have a guy on our show. His name's Justin Outdoors. He's a pretty big YouTuber, and he did a trail called the Great Divide Trail up in Canada. And he had a bear encounter where the bear charged him, and he pulled out his bear spray and got the bear to go away.
Oh,
so
nice.
Success for him. Yeah. So that being said, I've had plenty of bear encounters specifically in the Sierras where they're just there to take your food. And those are black bears, and they're, they can climb trees. They can do all sorts of stuff. My very first backpacking trip, we hiked and we like arrived at our campsite, and there's, it's not even nighttime, and there's like 3 bears milling about the area. And we're like, I think we're going to have some company tonight. And so I've had enough of these experiences to know that if you just simply camp in areas that are not the most popular, you're not going to typically attract the bears. And so I don't know, this is a huge topic, but yeah, basically I prefer not to bring the bear canisters, which are required in the Sierras, but in places that they're not required, I try not to bring them. The kind of the hybrid model is something called an Ursack, which, protects your food from critters as well. If I can avoid bringing that, I want to avoid bringing that. There's been an uptick in people bringing bear spray in just black bear territory, and black bears are generally non-aggressive towards humans. And so I don't bring that. And then I think the stat is like, if you're in a group of 4 or more, there hasn't been a death by a hiker from a grizzly bear ever.
Right.
Ever, anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
So and I'm usually in groups of 4 or more, so I don't even want to bring the bear spray.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's kind of the line I'm on too. I think that, bears are out there, but I feel like, you still have a better chance of getting struck by lightning or winning the lottery than getting, even that, like.
Ooh, that's such
right?
a good comparison stat. I should look that up. Yeah. Chance.
Yes.
Like,
There's
how does that measure
on that.
Right. Okay. I just shared my opinion. I haven't heard all the bear stories from your recent shows. Was there anything that sort of opposed that idea, or that?
Well, not really. I mean, no, I think that, the bear, I think that what we've heard is I think somebody died up in Yellowstone. Somebody was talking about that, right? So there was somebody, and the guys, I think, was it the Yellowstone episode? They were talking about how, there's been a number of, encounters, but again, it's the same thing. It's just like, I think they had a troublesome bear that was in town, whatever. But no, okay. I think you're right. I think that the point is that it's not likely to happen. You're not likely to die. And so the best thing to do is just, like you said, try to avoid it. So if you can stay away from those places where the bears know that that's where they're going, then do that.
For sure. And full disclosure, I have like an unhealthy lack of fear of wild animals. So that's probably how I'm going to end up going is a wild animal will get me. Like we had in Yellowstone, when my daughter was like 1 year old, we were camping there, and we had a grizzly bear come into our campsite, and I chased it out of the camp.
Oh, wow.
I threw my daughter in the car, and that's not what you want to do. Like that's bad advice.
Right. That's the wrong advice. It works though.
Right.
Cool. All right. Well, good. So we got the bear story out of the way. So as we're going, we're talking about a few things. I'm just curious on your gear, because again, I'm thinking about, putting some more stuff together. So what about your your pad? What do you go with? I know there's a bunch of different pads out there.
Okay.
You have
Yeah, and to be honest, a lot of it with pad is just like your comfort level, it's kind of user preference, to be honest.
What if your comfort level? What if you're at this point where you were good for the longest time, and as you get a little older, you're starting to be like, man, that back, it's just not quite that thin. Whatever your pad was, the old thermarest isn't quite working. What do you do when you get to that point?
Wait, is this your question? Are you asking for a friend on this one?
No, this is just a general audience. Our general audience.
Yeah. What if your back sounds good? Yeah. Okay. So generally speaking, I still see a lot of backpackers out there that are using like the straight up foam pads,
the fold out foam thingies or whatever.
Yeah. And those are the least expensive ones. Those are the kind of the budget option. And they'll still hold the warmth, which is kind of really what the pad's supposed to do besides provide comfort. They're supposed to hold the warmth. They have these like rating systems with R value. I'm not sure how into the weeds you want to go on the gear, but people, there's still like big companies like I think Nemo is making that stuff. And I would say, go with the foam pad if you just are somebody who doesn't want any comfort at all. Those things do like almost nothing. So those are the worst option. Up from there, there's a lot of really great options if you're talking like 2.5 to 3 inch thick pads that Thermarest makes and that Nemo makes as well. And so I'm currently using like a Nemo Tensor insulated pad, and they make them in wide, so it kind of feels like you can kind of roll around a little bit and feel like you're on your mattress at home. So that works for me. Like you got to do your research on the durability. I've had some pretty good success with it, but I know that there's been some durability issues. You look at some lighter weight options like with Thermarest, the Neo Air X Lite is one of theirs. And they're known for having like the crinkly, the like really loud, like the chip bag kind of sound. And so what they're doing is if you've ever used like an emergency blanket, that like space blanket thing, they literally like have, cut that up and put that inside their pad to provide the warmth, but it just makes it's super light, but it's just, terrible sounding, which if you sleep like a rock, it doesn't really matter to you.
Yeah.
But,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So, but those are probably the two leading companies at this point. I know that Big Agnes makes some good pads, but the durability has been a bigger issue with them. And so I don't know that they'd probably be, third on my list.
Okay. So and the tech is still like, you got the self-inflatable. That's still kind of you got that or that foam. That's kind of the only two styles.
Some of them, some are, like Thermarest, like that's how they started back in the 70s was like they made this pad that they kind of upgraded from that thin foam pad. And they're like, oh, this happens to self-inflate. So this is working for us. But I think since then, there's a couple things. So there's, a lot of people are just inflating themselves. The Nemos come with an inflation bag where you connect it to the pad and then you just got to blow like that, blow some air into there. And then you kind of squeeze the air into the bag, which is kind of not too bad. And then there's if you want to really get into some like kind of techie gear, there's a company called Flextail, which makes an air pump and you just connect it to the pad and it's battery operated, pretty light. I want to say it weighs like 3-4 ounces. And then it also has like a flashlight or lantern kind of light attached to it. So if inflating your pad is not your thing, like there's something for you, basically.
There you go. Luxury item, right?
Exactly. Luxury item, right.
Today's episode is sponsored by Jackson Hole Fly Company. They've been designing and manufacturing fly fishing equipment and flies since 1978 in their home base in Wyoming. In 2020, they launched jhflyco.com and started selling gear directly online to anglers all over the country. You can go ahead and right now and check out their huge selection of rods, reels, fly lines, tools, accessory. And right now, if you go to jhflyco.com/swing, you can get 25% off your first order. Just like Amazon, they'll ship everything directly to your door, saving you time and money. But unlike Amazon, you'll be supporting a great fly shop and this podcast by simply grabbing a few products, maybe just a couple of flies. Check it out. There we go. Get free shipping right now. All orders over $50 and get that 25% off your first order. jhflyco.com/swing. Okay, back to the show. All right, and then what about for your switching to the boots? Are you like a running shoe type of guy, or are you wearing a big pair of hiking boots?
Okay. This is also, you're hitting all the hot topics here. I'm loving these questions.
Yeah.
Well, okay. What do you wear? What do you got?
Well, I'm kind of so I've got these A Solos, which I use, and they're they're pretty rigid. I like them, but they're almost too stiff now. I'm kind of feeling when I put on my hikes, when I do just like day hikes and stuff, I love the running shoes.
Okay.
But I guess I'm a little afraid if I'm carrying a huge pack to do that for a long distance.
For sure. All right. So the boots, when I first got into backpacking and I was wearing boots, I felt like cool. Like these boots make me look outdoorsy. And so I think I stuck with that for a while. And then I realized, dang, are these things heavy?
Right.
And so aside from the weight, like I forget the ratio is, but it's like 1 pound on your foot equals 5 pounds on your back. There's some sort of weird ratio like that. So you want to reduce the weight on your feet as much as possible. That being said, a lot of it's also dealing with ankle health. So if you got terrible ankles, you may need some sort of high top support there.
Right. I
would say like you could probably do a whole episode on proper footwear, but you want a stiff like sole basically. If you've ever seen those shoes where you can like bend and squish them down, like kind of fold them up, like that's bad for you.
Not good.
Bad for foot health, and it's also going to cause like foot fatigue. Like your foot is actually working harder per step. So if you've ever had like tired feet, it could be from that. And so, so if you go like the opposite end with a run, like straight up road running shoes, the problem with those is that the bottom is oftentimes made out of the midsole material. It doesn't have actually like that Vibram type grip on the bottom. And so those will get torn up really fast.
They do.
So I did a big event in Yosemite where I was like, I'm going to wear road running shoes because this event's so important. I don't mind tearing up my shoes because this is like an important enough event essentially. And sure enough, like on both shoes, like I was peeling some of the rubber off because they were just kind of flapping around. So I don't know if that's an option. So the kind of the middle ground is the trail shoe or the trail runner. So and everybody has, a different fit and feel with their feet and shoes. I'm currently using the Hoka Speed Goats and those have been my favorite so far. They also come in like a high top, like, so you can have like a supportive high top version. Okay. The problem with the trail shoes, I don't know how much you know about shoes, but if you look at the colors, they are like every trail shoe is super loud color. It's
they are.
It's like bright orange, but like all bright orange, not like highlights of bright orange, but like the whole thing is, orange and red, or like, you're walking through the forest. People are going to, you're not going to be a hunter. People are going to see you from a long distance away. So that's my one gripe about those. But honestly, for comfortable feet, I'll put up with it.
Yeah, so that's it. So I'm love you. And you said Hoka because I had this running when I was trying to do my marathon. Well, this was back when I was trying to actually run a marathon. I was
still
running
gotta
on.
Try. Come on, you can't give up.
I know, I'm not giving up, but I was trying.
Okay.
But I was running on concrete, and my knees were just. I think I heard you said you're a basketball player. Basketball was my sport.
Okay.
But my knees are like struggle a little bit. But anyways, I was wearing whatever running shoes, and my knees were hurting. I switched to Hokas.
Okay.
And instantly it went away, and I haven't.
Really?
Yeah. So I've been wearing Hokas ever since that day.
Wow.
So I don't know if it's just because of the thick thing or whatever, but they work. So I feel like Hoka, these speed goats, might be the perfect thing for me. The transition.
I mean, Hoka's, I think, now the most popular running shoe out there. At first, it was like kind of a niche shoe. Then it was like for old people who had knee problems.
Exactly. That was me.
But yeah, it's so funny. That solved the problem. Like, that's hard to beat right there, to have a shoe do that.
It literally did. Yeah, it would be the perfect. I'm still trying to get them on as a sponsor, so we'll hopefully keep working on it. But so Hoka, I love Hoka. But yeah, but I think, again, it's like the ankle. I've got ankle things too. Again, you beat yourself up, right? Spraining your ankle from basketball and all these sports, and then you get to an age where
so you're a basketball guy. So yeah, we're ankle, like, turning your ankle, like landing on somebody else's foot. Okay. So I had terrible ankles by the time I was done with high school. And so when I started specifically trail running, I think I started with like ankle braces, or even was playing basketball with ankle braces, but just trail running or hiking, like, it will actually, if your ankles can handle it, they'll actually strengthen your ankles and the muscles around your ankles to the point where it actually ends up solving a lot of those issues.
Oh, now, and what will just getting out and doing it?
Like being on that uneven surface on the trail.
Oh, yeah.
So you mentioned you're kind of getting into trail running. So the more you do that, so eventually, because I continued to play basketball, beyond high school. And so once I got into trail running, at some point I stopped playing basketball with the ankle braces. And I didn't need them anymore because I wasn't treating my ankle anymore as a result. So
there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. So that's something to keep doing.
Use the trail to help you as well.
Yeah, I gotta get back in. I mean, I definitely run. I definitely, and I'm not. I'm feeling pretty good. It's not one of those things. I'm just always a little bit worried about it. But so good. So we got the shoes knocked out. Now let's go to a couple of the other big ones, and then we'll switch over to some other one other topic. But so what about sleeping bag? I think that's another thing, right? I mean, I think down sleeping bags I feel like are the best. But is there anything else out there other than, or do you need to get a down sleeping bag for weight and warmth? Yeah,
I mean, it depends on your point of view. Like if you're looking more budget, then maybe stay away from the down bag because that's going to be on the more expensive side. It's a good question. I've switched over to down because they treat it now where it's like, the big fear used to be you get it wet, it's going to wreck your night. It's going to be cold and freezing the whole night. But now they're pretty resistant to that stuff. And a lot of them come in these water resistant or waterproof stuff sacks. So if I were starting from scratch, I would look at the company Outdoor Vitals and see what they have, because they have some stinking lightweight sleeping bags that, you're still going to spend some money.
Yeah.
But they're not going to be like your $600 bag.
Right.
So,
Outdoor Vitals. Nice.
If you're looking budget conscious, then maybe more of the synthetics and maybe more of like the REI brand. Or if you're just like, if you're 20 years old and you're just like, I just want to get out there, they may end up going to Walmart and that'll work too. So it's just heavier.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, cool. And what other big gear should we add to this list if we're checking off our list? And this is great, by the way. I love the tips we've had so far. What else do we have? Somebody that again.
So you're talking like, so somebody's getting into it. What do they need to know? What should they watch out for? That kind of thing.
Yeah. And if there's any other gear we should be thinking, if they're going to go do like a 3 night, whatever, 2 or 3 night, they haven't been out in a while. What should they know? What should they have?
Okay. Yeah. So I feel like I got to go like mental backpacking list here. So, a lot of it is conditions and the area you're going and what they require. But if you're talking like the main pieces of gear, so we hit bag pad, we kind of have to backpack size. And then we mentioned tent briefly, I guess. So tents as long as you have a waterproof tent, I think you're good to go. There's going to be, a variety of sizes and a variety of weights depending upon how much you want to spend. But I think one key to the tent is like temptation. If you're budget conscious, is to go back to Walmart and buy one of their tents or whatever. If you can find a tent that has aluminum poles, then that's what you want, because those fiberglass poles, which you see with the car camping tents, those things break.
Yeah, they do
so frequently. So don't do that. Backpacking stoves are pretty easy to buy. Like, again, Amazon, you can go really entry level. Those canister stoves, there's like a BRS stove that goes, I don't know what it is, like $20 now on Amazon. You literally just screw it on. You can get, but I'm sure that they'll kind of combine it with a pot. You get whole cook sets they'll sell together to kind of boil water. And then then you get your water filter. And even they're even selling good water filters now at like the Walmarts.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like the Sawyer. So like the top filters would be easy to use, would be something called the Cat9 Be Free, but Sawyer makes a squeeze filter, which is pretty good.
So so you don't have to have a pump. You can actually do what is it? You screw it on the bottle and you can just suck through. Is that decent? Do they have all that technology now is pretty good where you don't have to actually have a pump?
Yeah. The pumps, pumps pretty, like they're still selling pumps, but they're pretty old school now. I think pumps are more for like larger groups and it's just an extra effort. So you can have like the gravity filters where you're just literally scooping water and then it just kind of does the work for you by hanging it from a tree. The Be Free is like a squeeze filter where you just kind of scoop the water into a bag and then you squeeze it through the filter into your bottle, or you can just drink right from it if you want to. And yeah, the filter technology's gotten way, way better for sure.
Yeah, it has. Okay.
So that used to be my least favorite camp chores, like filtering water or trying to take care of that. And
yeah, me too.
And now it's not my favorite still, but it's more handleable.
Oh, you're right. Right. It's a little bit better. That's so bad.
Yeah. Those are the big ones right there.
That is the big one. Yeah, that's the big stuff. And then what about for food? What do you do? What do your typical dinners look like out on the trail?
Okay. Entry level would be, so for meals, like dinner specifically, freeze dried food. So you're getting, you can buy those. I've seen them in the gas stations. Like you can just buy these packages. Mountain House is like the most famous, but there's been so many other companies that have sort of upped their game from the flavors. And so Peak Refuels, one of the tops of my list, is pretty readily available in most outdoor stores. I would go with them. And then, I don't know, up from there, you could go online and look at places like Pinnacle or Packet Gourmet, all the P words, basically. Like they all have good options. And then breakfast, I know a lot of folks are it's like coffee in the morning. You got your oatmeal. You can have a freeze-dried meal if you want to have like some scrambled eggs or stuff like that. And then I don't know that people really devote a lot of time to lunches. I think it's just mainly just snacking throughout the day, anything from bars and trail mixes to next level stuff that you might find at some of like the health food stores. Moon cheese is one of my favorite items if you're looking for something specific. That's like a little like a freeze dried. Yeah, it's like freeze dried cheese. And
okay,
I don't know, like everybody loves it. I pass it around when I open it. I don't always get it back.
How does that go? So moon cheese, do you have to do anything with it when you open it, or how's that work?
No, you just open it and go.
That's good to go.
It's like a crunchy. They like at my local store, they sell it in the crouton aisle at the grocery store.
Oh wow, moon cheese. This is awesome.
It's a little pricey, but
sure, sounds like it's worth it.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
So. Yeah, you're challenging me. You're like, I'm cycling through everything I do and all the major gear on the spot here. And
I love moon. Oh, I see it. Yeah, moon cheese. This is perfect. Okay. So moon cheese, and then what snacks do you have? Are you like a trail bar? What do you have when you're hiking on the trail?
Yeah, this is like one of our big debates in our podcast. Is I call like Snickers bars energy bars,
right?
And my buddy calls them candy bars. Yep. I'm like, well, that's what people use. That was like the original. That was like the OG energy bar, right?
Is that what it was originally? Before what was the first trail bar? Was it Cliff?
No, that Cliff bar was like an upgrade over the original Power Bar.
Oh, the Power Bar, yeah.
The one that was like you had to. You burn like 100 calories just eating the thing because it was so hard to chew. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that one? Did you ever have one of those?
Oh yeah. Well, I remember Power Bars. Yeah, they were not good early on.
No,
terrible.
I don't know if they're still making them, but anyway. And so I think people were like, I'll just have a Snickers bar. It's got protein with the peanuts.
Right.
But yeah, beyond that, like a lot of just, I don't know, candy for whatever reason is really big with like the M&Ms specifically.
Oh, yeah.
And tortillas are actually strangely on the heavier side, but people bring tortillas and put everything from like peanut butter in them to like salmon packets to tuna packets to one of the, again, another controversial item that I hear a lot of backpackers bring that I am not willing to go do is bringing the Spam.
Oh, Spam. Ooh.
Yeah, you see that. Have you had that before?
I have, but it's been a lot since I was a little kid. Yeah, that's just kind of
exactly. Yeah, because that's something from the 80s when people didn't look at the ingredients list.
Yeah, what is Spam? What is Spam? Spam is what?
It's like
a hot dog, like a kind of
it's like raccoon meat mixed with like squirrel or something, and like a bunch of salt. Yeah.
God, that doesn't sound
Who
good.
knows? Right. Chemicals plus chemicals.
Right. Okay. So that's it. So we got So we covered a number of items here. Let's move to, I want to talk about some myths or however we want to talk, maybe some myths or tips. So you're on the trail. What is something somebody's going to be thinking about that maybe they're worried about or that maybe they shouldn't be worried about? Like, give us some insight on, they're doing a 3-day trip. What might be something people shouldn't be worried about that maybe they're thinking about?
Okay. So the big three, like if you're talking like myths related specifically to like fears almost, is you're inside your tent and you hear a rustling in the bushes.
Right.
All right. And it freaks you out. The myth is that like whatever that thing is going to come into your tent and attack you, whether it's something big, something small. Chances are it's just like a rabbit or a chipmunk rolling around or whatever. It's not usually anything big and it's not going to get you. And so the closest I've personally ever had to something, it's not trying to get me, but we had, when we were in the Glacier, just that same trip I was referencing before the podcast, we had our backpacks inside the vestibule of our tent. And in the middle of the night, something started yanking the backpacks out.
Oh, wow.
Vestibule. And I was like, this is a new experience.
Damn.
And it was deer.
Oh, wow. Deer.
Yeah. For whatever reason, deer in that park love to chew on the shoulder straps and get the salt.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And I would have never guessed that. And so we had to like fight off deer the rest of the night.
Did you really? Wow.
But they weren't coming into our tent, so it wasn't like we're going to get attacked. Like worst case scenario, we have like a torn up bag. But yeah, so your fear. I don't know. I was joking with some like CEOs of companies like, hey, if you guys could come up with some sort of app where you could just record the sound outside your tent and it could tell you exactly what it was, like you'd make a lot of money.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's coming. That's for sure. The AI is going to do everything. You know what I mean? That's
right. Chat GPT sounds.
Yep.
So, anyways, that's number one. Number two is you're going to run out of food, right? So people tend to way overpack food. And unfortunately, I wish there was a formula for how much food you needed.
I know.
But obviously, not only is everybody different, but everybody's trip is different. And so you might have a really hard trip where you need more food, or a really easy trip where you're like, I'm not even hungry for dinner.
Right.
And so it just depends. But typically, no matter what happens, I would say most people, I don't know, 95% of the people are going to end their trip with extra food.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's something. So calm down with the food base is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, food's not the word. And what is your food? Like, how do you decide if you were going on a 3-night trip? How would you decide how much food to bring? Other than you got your dinners, like just the other stuff.
Right. Loosely looking at calories and like difficulty of the trail. So yeah, I'll portion it out. So I have like, I'm a Ziploc bag guy. I reuse them, FYI, for those of you who are against the single-use plastic stuff. But I'll label them like day 1, day 2. But whatever the last day is, I'll combine that with the, like so if it's a 3-day trip, for example, I'll have a bag that says day 2/3, because typically your last day is a little bit easier, or you're going to end, you're ending the day at a restaurant. And so you don't have to pack as much. Right. But I'll loosely look at the calories and kind of gauge that with what the trail looks like. The only time I've ever had an issue, strangely, was recently, where we were misinformed about the difficulty of the trail, where not only was the distance harder, but just like, it was essentially like an off-trail hike. And so, which adds a lot of calorie burning. And so we were so misinformed that we had a group of 8 guys, and I think 5 of them actually ran out of food on the third of 4 days.
Wow.
And that's never happened before. So that's so rare. It wouldn't change anything I would do differently in the future. It just was crazy that happened. And it just came down to trail intel. So there's that.
Right.
So food was number 2. Third one, last one I got, you said what was it? Gear? Was it myths on the trail?
Myths. Yeah.
Okay. Would be the reason why a lot of folks' packs are like needlessly heavy is because they're bringing too much water.
Oh, water.
Right. So, okay. So how much water would you start off with on a day hike, backpacking trip, whatever? Yeah,
I would just have, usually what I do is I switch this up too, but typically I'll have like a Camelback, and usually I might have 1 liter, 2 liter there, and then I always have a little bottle that's just my extra in case I drink through that. So I go overboard on the water, but I'll usually might have another liter of water there too.
Okay, yeah, and I think if you're going over 2 liters, you're definitely on the heavy side, unless you know something about the trail, like there's not going to be a lot of water sources. Yeah. But typically people are stopping frequently enough, next to streams. You just got to be aware of what the trail has to provide. Like, are there going to be streams, lakes, whatever you can filter from? It's more efficient to carry less water and filter more frequently than the opposite. Like you might move faster by carrying more water and having to filter less, but you're burning a lot more calories and you're going to get a lot more tired by the end of the day as a result.
Yeah.
So
Right. So a liter.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if you got a liter of water, that should get you. How do you do it? Do you have? Is that typically you try to stay under the 2 liters?
Yeah, I'm typically I'm usually on the light side, to be honest. So I'm usually like at a liter, and a lot of folks are moving away from the water reservoirs in your backpack because you don't know how much water you have left.
Yeah, that's the problem, right?
There's so many. There's like 10 issues with it. So you don't know that. The lightest of them weigh 5 ounces versus like a smart water bottle weighs less than an ounce. So if you're comparing weight, I don't know if you have this issue, but you have the hose with the bite valve, right? And you put your pack down. No matter how stinking careful you are at putting your pack down, that bite valve ends up in the dirt so frequently, and it's just it's super annoying.
It does. Yeah. That's right.
And then
Oh, and the smart water bottle. So talk about that. So this is is this just your kind of like recyclable bottle, or what is this thing?
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's just like a grocery store, like, it's just the brand Smart Water.
Oh, just Smart Water. Yeah, just Smart Water.
Yeah, they make them in the store, and they're totally recyclable. Like I use them for multiple trips. They're like, as compared with like the Crystal Geyser bottles that are super crinkly, like those things are just going to destroy. Yeah. These are like thicker than those enough.
Yeah, I love Smart Water.
That's right. To withstand stuff, but they're not going to.
Yeah, so that's where you get down these little ounce. That's where you get down this thing where it's like a Nalgene bottle is just going to weigh more. It's right. That's the whole thing.
Nalgene will weigh 6.7 ounces empty. I'm telling you straight up.
Yeah.
And a Smart Water bottle under an ounce. So
under an ounce, right? So there you go.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. All these ounces really just add up. Right? I mean, that's the whole point here.
And a Nalgene bottle, especially when you're driving, you're going to spill on yourself.
Yeah, I hate the Nalgene. Nalgene, well, they do make the smaller ones, right? But the normal,
but they're not as popular. Yeah.
No, and the big size just doesn't fit anywhere. It's crazy.
It doesn't fit, and then I just feel like I hit a bump or something, and the water goes all down my shirt.
Yeah, and it's too big, right? The mouth hole is. Well, back in the day when they had I can't remember the filter, but there was filters that would screw onto that wide thing, right?
Did, yeah.
Oh, they all did, yeah. So it seems like nobody's really doing that as much anymore. So you don't need the wide mouth anymore.
Right. And cool. That's true. That's a good point.
So we're talking old. So you've been doing this a while. What was your how long ago was your first hike? When did you get into this back? I can't remember remind me again on the dates.
Okay, so I think first backpacking trip was 1995.
Okay, yeah. So there you go. So it's, you've been definitely in there. So a lot has changed. 95. I mean, literally almost 30 years. You can look back and say you've seen some changes. I mean, what does that look like overall in the outdoor product gear industry?
Yeah, I mean, actually, and I worked at REI not too long after I started back.
Cool.
So I was selling all this stuff, and it's funny because I'll see some of this old stuff at like garage sales and be like, oh, I can tell you exactly when this was made. But so I mean, in terms of like the technology is now kind of going light years beyond where people are realizing they want to carry less weight, but you're also seeing like an uptick in luxury items. So people are loving bringing ultralight chairs.
Oh, I know. I love a chair.
Yeah. So like the 1 pound chairs is for some people, like that's their luxury item.
Right. 1 pound chair. So how many, and we're talking about these other, like a water bottle. How many of these smart water bottles would it take to equal to one of those chairs?
A lot. If they're empty, if they're full, you're talking like one full smart water bottle is double the weight of, is that right? Yeah, double the weight because it's 8 pounds a gallon. So you're talking like 2 liters or 2 quarts or whatever is going to be, what is that?
I don't know. I'm not good. You're way better at math than me. So yeah.
So I'm on the spot. I'm nervous. I'm on the podcast. But so 1 liter it's a liter, but which is similar to a quart, it's going to be 2 pounds. So you're talking like one full water bottle is going to be the same as 2 of your chairs essentially.
Oh, okay. There you go.
So you can bring a chair and a stool.
Oh, wow.
Shave down the weight there. Yeah.
So these chairs, and the last chair that I had was the Thermarest used to have you could throw it inside one, like the chair kit.
The kit, I still have one of those.
Yeah, sure. Those are. But so, what is the typical? So, if you're going to buy a chair, what's the recommendation there?
Okay. So, like Helinox is kind of known industry standard for the chairs. I actually just broke mine on the last trip, and so I've been dealing with them. I'm curious, like how they're going to, either
Helinox,
replace Helinox. Yeah, curious how they're going to replace the broken part or I don't know. I'm curious. I don't have an end to that story basically, but they're kind of industry standard. They were the first ones to come up with the 1 pound chair. REI has their own, but it's not as comfortable. You can go like 2 pound chairs on Amazon, which are more comfortable, but they're obviously 2 pounds. And then next year, 2024, Nemo's coming out with a chair and they have a setup. So this is kind of a weird thing, but like if you think of like your camp chairs or whatever, they have these little, the legs oftentimes will sink into the ground. And that's what actually can cause them to break as you get up too fast or you lean on them. And so Nemo's got a setup where part of their stuff sack for the chair you put under the feet so that it doesn't sink in, I think is their technology.
That's cool. That's a good idea.
I don't know if I'm supposed to say that because it's not out yet, but
sure.
Too bad. Yeah.
That's right. Let's take a quick break for a word from our sponsors. Dette Flies, established in 1928, is the oldest family-run fly shop in the world. And I'm all about the history in fly fishing, which is one reason I'm super stoked to have Dette on as a sponsor this year. Long before I made my first order with Dette, I remember hearing stories about the quality and the history and always wanting to connect deeper with them. So that time has come now, and I share the Dette tradition with you. Located in Livingston Manor on the banks of Willowweemock Creek, Dette is your welcoming place on the creek or online. Their retail and online shop have a large selection of flies, materials, fly gear, outdoor lifestyle items, books, and more. Dette Flies inventory consists solely of products that meet every angler's demand for highest quality and service. Of course, they offer fly fishing and casting lessons as well as guided trips. For more information, visit Dette Flies at wetflyswing.com/Dette or give them a call, 845-439-1166. That's wetflyswing.com/Dette, Dette. You support this podcast by clicking over through that link to Dette. Okay, let's get back to the show. Well, we're doing good on this. So we've touched on a bunch of products here. It feels like we could probably do a full trip. What else would you tell somebody who is going out there? It's been a while, and they want to get and do one of these multi-dray. Any other words of advice from a guru?
Yeah. Okay. So I would say if you are the kind of person who, obviously, if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably somebody who is excited to do these outdoor adventures. You're probably somebody who's going to research when you get on YouTube or listen to other podcasts. And I would just say be careful about who your source of information is, because everybody has their own bias. And a lot of folks come across as like the authority or the expert on something, like, we know what's going on. Right. Here's what we do. And I guess I've honestly tried to come across that way to kind of sound smart enough on this show to make it worth me being on the show. But like our podcast specifically, I think appeals to people because we highlight all of our mess ups. Like we're constantly like goofing up and making mistakes and forgetting things and making essentially rookie mistakes, even though we've been doing this forever. And I think that makes it feel more achievable for the folks out there. They're like, oh, well, if these goofballs can do it, then certainly I can do it. And so I just don't want folks to find somebody out there who makes it seem like such a big deal or so hard, or you have to know so much that it's like a mountain that's literally too big to climb. Yeah. So just be careful with kind of where you're sourcing your information, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
That's great advice. No, I think that's where the podcast is awesome because, the way we do it, like right now, I'm bringing you here. Yeah, you are the expert today, right? That's what's great. But
I'm trying to pretend to be one. Yeah.
No, you're doing great. You got 200 episodes of, you've talked to 200 more people than most people about all these. And obviously you've given us tons of great tips today. But I think that's what the podcast is great, is that I'm not an expert in fly fishing. You know what I mean? So most of the guests I have on in fly fishing are super way above my level. And you can listen, right? You can listen to an hour and you can figure it out if that person is legit.
Right.
You know what I mean? People can fake it. Some people could probably fake it. But I think when you hear somebody talk for an hour, it's pretty obvious to hear if that guy's. What would you say about that? You think that's true with your 250 guests? Have you ever had a...
That's a great question. We're pretty careful about who we bring on. Somebody talking nonsense, like if somebody, there might be somebody who actually knows what they're talking about, but they give a bad tip, for example, and we're not going to let that slide. So we'll usually point that out or poke fun at it. The fun thing about our show is that like we'll have the guest on and then we'll have the reaction, so we can kind of like not really talk about them behind their back because they're going to end up hearing it, but just we can kind of like process through what they said and then react and be like, wait a second, like this is nonsense. But if we had somebody who was on that was really I think I would just end the show. Like, What do you do? How do you handle that? Yeah,
well, it's pretty cool because in all these episodes, I'm trying to think, have we had, there must be somebody in there. I just can't remember. I think that, I don't judge, Roy, to be honest with you. When I have somebody come, if it's a legit thing I know is wrong, yeah, I would call it out. But for the most part, I let people talk. There's sometimes even like politics, we try to avoid talking about politics.
Yeah.
religion and stuff like that. But occasionally it comes up, and I feel like, you know what? It's my job as the host to give them, this is their platform. And if they're being safe and stuff, then, I'm not going to like rip them down. I just feel like I'll let people listening judge. So I kind of take that route a little more, you know what I mean? But I feel also that people in the outdoors, for the most part, are kind of on the same page. I mean, most people, I think,
for the most part. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I got an example. This is something that, okay. So this literally, I just did the interview yesterday. So this is for our upcoming episode coming out, whatever. I don't know when this episode, but, so you can process through how you would handle the situation. So he was talking about how this guy was talking about how he was camping at a trailhead, and he had some like rodents or some sort of animal get inside his car and just tear up his car and get into his food.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, come on, man. You're not supposed to leave the windows down.
Right.
And he's like, oh, no. We didn't leave the windows down. We double checked. Our car was like airtight sealed. I'm like, okay, great. How did the animal get inside the car? He's like, I don't know. Must have gotten in through like the air vents. I'm like, what animal's getting in through the air vents? He's like, I don't like, there's mice around. I don't know.
Right.
And so I can't like on the spot. I'm not going to like start Google searching. Can mice come in through the air vents? So how do you handle that situation?
Yeah.
What would you say to that? I guess on that.
That's a good question. Right. So the guy's calling. So literally, I mean, I'm thinking, and yeah, you got mice in your car. That's legit because how would the mice get in? There's got to be, I mean, unless they chewed a hole, it's something that's already there probably.
Yeah. Or they left the window down and you don't want to say it, right?
Yeah. That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know what I'd say. I think I would just probably just be like, let him say what he's going to say. And then maybe I would call it out if it got too crazy. But if it was just that, I probably wouldn't worry about it and I'd just be like, move on to the next. I try to, when things get boring on the show, or if something's going on where I feel like I'm getting bored or something's a little weird, I'll just totally switch the topic and just go to something totally random. Because I feel like that's my cue to be like, all right, we need to switch this
mix
up.
it up a little bit.
Yeah. So I kind of do that. And then we also do a little bit of editing, just to clean up. So there are times when if somebody said something weird, we could cut that out.
Oh, I do that all the time for sure. 100%. But yeah. So what I did was like, and I had a strong enough rapport to do this with the guy. I don't know if I do this with everybody, but I said, yeah, are you believing this? Kind of asking the audience, like, do you believe what he's saying? Please react. Please let us know.
Oh, because you're live? Do you do yours live?
It wasn't, I mean, I'm saying it live, but I'm like we're also on YouTube and
that's what I'm saying because you have the YouTube. Yeah.
So they can literally react sort of live, I guess. We're not big on YouTube, but I mean, 99% are on the audio apps, but people will still reach out through like social media or whatever and be like, yeah, I'm not buying a story. Like mice can't get through this.
Right.
And so I'll put it out to everybody. So like in sort of like
that's good.
A passive aggressive way, I'm calling him a liar, I guess.
Yeah. No, it's good. And I think that's fun. I mean, again, if your guest is getting mad at that, then this probably, you know what I mean? Something's probably wrong with him, but I think that.
Yeah. Well, we had the report for that. You don't always, you got to feel him out a little bit, I suppose.
Exactly. Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Man, good question. I like that.
Yeah, good. So what else do we have? Well, let's take it out of here. We typically have a kind of our shout out segment this one's going to be our conservation shout out. So I'm going to do a shout out to one of our conservation partners. Then we're going to head into our rapid fire round. And then we'll take it out of here in a few minutes. So today we got the Henry's Lake Foundation as our conservation shout out today. We've got an upcoming trip we're doing out to that part of Idaho. We're going to be doing some stuff on the podcast with them to kind of promote some of that. But tell me this, who I'm not sure if you're big into conservation, but do you have a group or somebody you would give a shout out to or somebody you support out there or know of, in your area or around the country?
Ooh, I'm more, it's a good question.
And maybe conservation is the right word. It could be like, you said John Muir, and I think of some of the, what's the giant, like the, I mean, there's like the Sierra Club, but I mean, there's all these giant groups I'm sure that are doing this amazing stuff out there, right?
Yeah, I'm more local, so I don't know how relevant it is, but yeah, we've got, I mean, for me, we have like literally up the street, because we talk about the kind of the local trails here in Castle Colorado. We get the Ridgeline Wranglers, so they're always the ones cleaning up the trail and doing the trail maintenance.
What's it called again?
The Ridgeline Wranglers.
Oh, cool. Ridgeline. Wait, okay.
Yeah. So I really need to join them. I just kind of do my own thing when I'm out on the trail in terms of just kind of, maintenance and picking up trash and this and that, but they do a lot more than me. So I appreciate them for sure.
Perfect. All right, good. So on your title, the blister part. So how'd you come up with that? Was that your co-host? You guys, backpacking in blisters. Have you had some blisters?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we tried to come up with something like I had these crazy names, and my buddy's like, "That's too complicated. Let's just keep it simple." And he was right. And so we used to have this tagline. we ended our episodes like it's not backpacking unless there's a few blisters along the way,
Right.
and then that kind of you know how like I'm sure like with your podcast that kind of morphs over time, and
Yeah,
so
it does.
so we've had episodes on blisters and this and that, and we talked about like my buddy's big trip, which was kind of like a big moment in his life where we call it the death march. He got so many blisters and was able to push through. It just kind of for him it was a big moment, I suppose. So
I know.
a lot of blister connections. I don't know. Have you ever had issues with that?
Yeah, I always go back to the Snake River. We did the Hell's Canyon trip one year.
Okay.
And it was so pathetic because I mean, it was literally one of those things where I bought a pretty new pair of boots, didn't break them in enough.
Right.
Another friend did the same thing. And we hiked. It was like down into the bottom, down to the Snake River, and it was hot. It was like, super hot. We ran out of water. Funny thing is that we had tons of blisters. My feet were just wasted. Then there's this one dude I remember from Montana. He's like a friend of a friend. He was wearing running shoes the whole time, like in shorts, and he was just totally happy.
He's fine,
just cruising. I don't even think he wore socks. I think he was just cruising. He's one of those guys.
I wasn't wear socks. Oh my god,
he was just this extreme dude. But so
tear my feet.
Okay, so we got the blisters. And what about basketball? So let's hear about this. So you played high school basketball. What position?
Yeah, I was like, I don't know what it was. I probably like the power forward guy. We didn't have a super tall team. I think I was 6'3", so
okay,
that was,
yeah. You got some height.
Positions, did you
I was point guard.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was point. I was more of a I'm like 6 foot, but I mean, I've always been like ball and shooting. But yeah, I mean, I love that 6'3". I mean, you're in that range of. I mean, there's some famous NBA players that were 6'3". Right?
I know. Yeah, I was always hoping to be 6'3", and like I grew up watching Magic Johnson. I
so
I always wanted to be him. And
yeah, he was your hero, Magic.
He was my childhood hero for sure. Like no doubt.
Not Jordan.
No, like I mean, I lived in California at the time, and so the games were always on. And I don't know if there's been a guy like him. Like, not only was he doing all like the trick passes and stuff, he just had that like gregarious personality where he's just like,
I know.
He just like loved everybody and was so fun to be around. I was always smiling, and I was like, man, I wish we had more people like that out there. Yeah.
Do you keep up with basketball now, NBA?
Not as much. Like when I hit my 40s and I couldn't play as much, I kind of dialed it back. And then when all those players started kind of forming the super teams, it wasn't quite as much fun.
I know.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I stopped watching like, I don't know, mid to late 90s. Where are you with basketball now?
Yeah, I pretty much, when my first kid was born, really, it's almost like 11 years ago. I pretty much just figured like I don't have a lot of time for sports. you know what I mean? Like it was that.
Pick and choose.
Yeah. So and I played my whole life, and but it's weird because you think about it. I remember I always go back to the story with my dad because he was kind of like a semi-pro, basketball player and stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he had these high school tournaments that he used to do, which is crazy to think now because when I think he was in his mid 50s. They would do these reunion tours back in his high school. And so like the class of, like 59 would play the class of, the 70. But he he was playing. These were full on competitive games. So into his 50s, he was playing competitively. And now I'm not even 50 yet. And there's no way I'm running a full court game against like guys that are battling right now. Yeah.
Fitness wise, I feel like I could probably keep up.
Yeah.
And probably you too, if you're running, but
yeah, maybe. Yeah.
When I go to the, doctor or the physical therapist and I'm talking to them about some of the stuff they see with guys my age, they're like, oh, it's just guys playing basketball that think they can do what they used to be able to do. And so it's just, they're, jumping and landing and
that's
cutting
it.
And so I don't know for sure.
That's what I'm most afraid of that. Just that you take the cut, you roll the ankle, you do the knee, and now you're out. Now you can't hike. You can't
do
fish.
anything. Yeah, for sure.
That's kind of the thing. But
did you play in college at all?
No. I wasn't. That was the thing. I wasn't quite. I played high school, right? So that was my thing. My dad, again, go back to the dad. He was college. They went to the tournament. Back in the. Yeah. This was in the. What would this be like? He was born in 1939, so this would have been late 50s or something like that.
Okay.
But yeah, So again, I think I wasn't quite there. My brothers were a little bit better. I have a few brothers, and they were. Definitely went to college and did some stuff. But
gotcha.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So we got the basketball question. So what's your your big goal? So hiking wise, do you have a big goal, big trip? Do you have are you thinking? You said you get 5 or 6 trips, and do you always think like, okay, this is the next big one I got to get in?
Yeah. This again is probably a bigger question. So I think I guess guys. I would hope, our fellow adventurers out there would have something on their list, whether it's their bucket list or something that they're looking forward to. I just literally finished one of my big ones. Like that was the Yosemite Trail I was referencing. So I don't know how deep you want me to go. But
how many miles was that?
So it was 50 miles. So, okay, here, I'll give you the kind of the quick rundown. So that 1995, when I started backpacking, my second trip was this trip in Yosemite called Red Peak Pass. It's a big pass in the middle of Yosemite. It's very remote. Hardly anybody goes back there. And so we got to the top of the pass. We're new backpackers. We don't know what we're doing. We look over the side of the pass. We see the north-facing slope is literally covered in snow. We do not have the skills to do this, so we had to turn around.
Oh, wow.
Okay. 10 years later, I got my buddy Derek now and a couple other guys, and I'm like, hey, this is a 5-day backpacking trip, 50 miles. I want to do this in 3 days. We're in our late 20s. This is Derek's Death March, which I referenced. I'm kind of connecting the dots here. So we pull it off, and it becomes this epic story. We're always referencing it. 2015, we do the reunion, the 10-year. It takes us like 3.5 days. We're older now, right? And so my buddy, another buddy of mine and I are like, you know what? It's like, we're always looking to go big. We want to do this Red Peak Pass trip in 1 day.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So we're trying to do this as like a kind of a trail run power hike.
Yeah, damn. 50 miles.
So 2020 rolls around. We train for it. And my body just breaks down.
Right.
So I'm training and I'm trying to be able to do it, and I just have to pull out. I can't do it
because that's like an ultra, right? Pretty much.
Yeah. But it's not. But it's unsupported. So like you've got to bring all your stuff, your water filter, all that stuff. So anyway, so in 2020 we so I pulled the plug, but my two other buddies, they still want to go do it, but they're not the trip planners. So I bet you are kind of like a leader in your group or in your family where you're the one who's in charge. You know what's going on.
Yeah.
When you take that guy out of the mix, like chaos, right?
Right.
And so they go, I give them everything they need, but they're just not as equipped. They don't know how to read the map as well. They didn't bring an emergency beacon. It ends in a search and rescue phone call. Jeez. And so, so my body was broken for years until this year. I was like, I failed. I want to do this. And so this was the big year where I was like, this is my last shot. So we literally just did it a few weeks ago in Yosemite. And so that was that. I mean, that's been like, however long, years coming. Yeah. Where finally I get to do it. My body didn't break down through the training process this year. So that's kind of my big. So yeah, you asked a small question. I give you a big answer, but
that's amazing. That's a great answer. So wow. So you did 50 miles in how many hours?
Oh, it took forever. Yeah. We had, in California, like they had the crazy winter.
Oh yeah, they had a big winter, right?
Yeah. So when I was flying into California, I'm looking down over the Sierras. I'm seeing, hey, that's covered in snow exactly the same way as the first time. And so it just took us forever. And yeah, there's I don't know. So it's a long story, but basically it ended up taking us like 20 hours to do it. So
God,
we had a safety crew out there because we didn't want, we took precautions. We had a filmmaker who's made some outdoor films who hiked in with us for the first 10 miles. That slowed us down, but we got some amazing footage. So we're going to put together a documentary for it. So,
oh, cool. And what do you have a name for the documentary?
I'm open to suggestions if you got one.
Yeah, no, I don't right now, but this is good. Okay. And when will this documentary?
We're in the beginning stages for sure.
Okay. And how long will this take to get out there?
Oh, probably, I don't know.
I'm
guessing. Yeah. Just a few months. We're not professionals. Yeah.
Okay.
Probably by wintertime.
Good. Okay. Yeah. So by the time this goes live, this year sometime we can check it out. Okay. Well, we'll send. And where should we go for that? Will this be on your website, on your YouTube channel?
Yeah. So probably on our YouTube channel. I don't know. We'll see. If it ends up being good, like the guy, the filmmaker's legit. So he actually got some really good footage. So if we can up our game a little bit, great. I don't want to, get over my skis with stuff or anything, but I don't know. At this point, it's probably just going to end up on YouTube, if I'm being honest. So, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Perfect. Thanks for asking, man. Appreciate it.
Good, man. All right. Well, and as you look ahead, so I guess that's it. I mean, I just want to leave it there. I don't want, 50 miles, that seems like that's just,
it's a lot.
I can't imagine, right? Planning for that.
Yes, you can. You're training for a marathon. So imagine doing that, but you get to walk for a good chunk of it.
I was trying to. I know. Okay. So I think that's the goal. But here's the call to action to everybody. What is your 50-mile day trip, for the people listening, right? For me, maybe it's that marathon. I think maybe I need to try to, I think everybody needs something, right? I think it's good to have a goal.
Yeah, okay, Dave, you could do one marathon. Yeah, one in you.
Yeah.
Which one do you want to do?
Yeah, which one would I want? God, I haven't done enough research to know. I was kind of starting when I did. I was like, well, I was going to start with like the Portland sort of, basic, and then try to go for the next big one, the Boston Marathon or something like that.
Okay.
But there's probably some cool marathons out there. And again, trail running. I would probably rather do a full giant trail run marathon. You know what I mean? So,
it's more scenic.
That would probably be what I would want to do. And I haven't done enough research. I think really it was such a failure. The first time. I think I need to start small and be like, okay, let's get some new shoes. Maybe I'll get those. What were the Hokas? The Hoka trail runners?
Oh yeah, the speed goats.
Yeah,
I would get those for backpacking. I don't know about.
Oh, so you right. So you wouldn't want to run those.
Yeah, no, for training for sure I would. But if I was like, that's what I was talking about with like, I'm like, this is my big event, so I'm going to use road shoes, and I don't care if I tear them up. But
tear them up, right? Gotcha.
Yeah, that's interesting. So so this goes back to like a big issue with why I only had one buddy go on our trip. So let me ask this question. So you wanted to do a marathon, you had your knees were hurting, you weren't able to do it. Is it eating at you to do a marathon? Is it something you have to do?
Not real. It's not that big of it. There's so many things like especially with the traveling, I would much rather travel, do a bunch of, a big trip around the world.
Oh yeah.
Than do a marathon, So it's not that high. I think more for me, it's health. I just want to stay healthy.
Right.
And I feel like having goals like that to keep you, with a goal, it keeps you healthy, keeps you running.
Yeah, the smaller goals, kind of the bigger thing. Yeah. But this is the question I ask people because I had a buddy who's like, he failed in 2020 and he wasn't interested in 2023. And I was like,
right.
Why not? Like, if you fail at something,
I know.
Doesn't that make you want, if it's something you feel like it's achievable, doesn't that make you want to try again?
Yeah.
And most people say yes, but not everybody. It's not true for everybody.
I think it's a good point. I think I would definitely, I think just where I'm at, maybe a little bit, maybe in a few years, but I think right now I'm kind of thinking, okay, what else do I want to do? We got a big travel program going, which has taken up a lot of time, but I'll stay on. There's also, you probably haven't heard of it. There's this company out there that's doing fly fishing and trail running and beer drinking. That's the program they do. They have actually in Colorado. I think there's one in Colorado. I can't remember the name of it, but you might want to check it out. So you learn, or you fly fish and you run like a 5K. And you drink beer at the end.
I think I have heard of that, actually. Yeah. That's funny. You mentioned that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
I'll have to look it up.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right,
cool.
Man. Well, I'm going to be asking about your marathon either way. Whether you want to do it or not, I'm going to be bugging you about it.
Yeah, hit me up. Let's circle back around in a while. We'll check back in with you. But let me just leave that here today. I want to say thanks, for what you're doing with the podcast out there. I love that you're still going strong, after all these years. And we got to keep ourselves accountable because we start at the same time. So
that's right.
If one of us drops off, we can keep, have a check there. But yeah, thanks for all your time today, Carl. Definitely appreciate you coming on.
And thank you so much for having me on. This is a lot of fun talking to you. Really appreciate it.
That is a wrap. You can grab all of the show notes at wetflyswing.com. And please follow us on Instagram and share this episode out with someone you love. Please send me an email, dave@wetflyswing.com, if you have any feedback or want us to put together an episode on this podcast for you. Check in anytime. I hope you enjoyed this podcast and would love to meet up with you on the water. We have new fly fishing schools going all year long and all around the country. So if you want to connect, let's do it right now. All right, time to get out of here. I hope you have a great evening. I hope you have a great morning or great afternoon wherever in the world you are. And I appreciate you for stopping by and checking out the show today. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show. For notes and links from this episode, visit wetflyswing.com.